I'm going to be in Galatians chapter 5. And this is actually, you know how you guys have like a verse of the day? Yeah? Okay. So this was the verse of the day a while back, and it kind of stuck with me. And I started sitting on it and thinking about it. But I'm going to... Before that, I want to talk to you a little bit. So, how many of you guys, I'm sure all of us have been stuck in something before, right? Whether it's traffic in Atlanta or a situation you don't want to be in, talking to somebody that you'd rather not talk to, or whatever it may be. Whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever. We've all been in a situation where we're stuck somewhere. And see, like with college, I know when I get out on Fridays, and I know that if I leave right when I get out, I can probably miss traffic in Atlanta. But if I get caught in traffic in Atlanta, and say I'm caught there for a couple hours, you better believe whenever the cars in front of me start moving and traffic starts going, that I'm going to start moving with them. Okay? And that makes sense. And some of you guys are like, well, that's ridiculous. Why wouldn't you do that? But we find ourselves not doing that in our spiritual life. And I want to talk to you about the Israelites. The Israelites did that. They had been given over to their fleshly desires, to their sin, and they had the Babylonians had taken them over, and they lived in exile, which is like what Devin was talking about. Jeremiah was one of the prophets that talked to the Israelites, and he's like, listen, you need to turn back to God, and they never listened to any of these prophets, so they ended up getting taken over by the enemy. And it says that they would be there for 70 years? 70 years, and that he pretty much told them it wasn't over. He told them to seek him. But you find out that even when they were allowed to go back, some of them went back, and they might as well have been in captivity because they weren't living like they were free. They were back in the land that they were supposed to be in. They were back in God's land, and they were back in their land, but they didn't have any walls or any protection, and the surrounding enemies would come in and conquer them because they weren't living like they had been set free. And I think that as Christians we should live like we've been set free. So anyways, Galatians chapter 5, verse 24, it says that those who belong to Christ Jesus have nailed their passions and desires of their sinful nature to his cross and crucified them there. So, first of all, who is he speaking to? That was the first thing that I thought of. And he's speaking to those who belong to Christ Jesus. So as Christians, as people who follow Jesus, as his children, we are supposed to nail our sinful passions and desires to the cross and to leave them there, which I ain't got into that yet, but I'm about to get into that. But the Israelites, they weren't living like that. They were still living like they were in captivity. If they would have been sitting in traffic in Atlanta, they would have sat there while everyone else was moving. There's a lot of things in our life that we have been delivered from, that we've been saved. Whenever we walk down the aisle, we get saved. God delivers us. I don't believe that he doesn't, because I know that he's all powerful and that he does deliver us. But we find ourselves still living like we're in captivity because Satan is a deceiver. He's like the ultimate deceiver. He's like an illusionist. And he makes your mind think things and your eyes see things that aren't really as they're supposed to be. The Bible tells us that Satan comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. But if Satan walked up to you and told you that that's why he's here, you probably wouldn't want to do anything that he told you to do. So he makes it look like something different. And we find ourselves sitting in captivity, or sitting like we're in captivity when we are the chosen of God, when we need to step out in freedom. And this is really the heart behind this message. If you love God, you have to hate sin. Like, if you really love God, like Jesus said, if you love me, you obey my commands. But if you really love God, you have to hate sin. And in Ecclesiastes it says there's a time for everything under heaven. And people talk about like Jesus was all about love and compassion. Jesus loved and Jesus and he loved everybody. He had compassion. He is perfect, but there were still times when he got angry. There was a time in the temple when he walked in and he was mad with a righteous anger, and he flipped the table and he had told them that they had turned his father's house into a marketplace. And I started reading John not too long ago, and Jesus says some pretty bold things, and what it really started was like he healed somebody on the Sabbath, and the Pharisees got mad about that, and Jesus at one point, he said that he knows his Father and that they don't know his Father, because if he said that he didn't know his Father, he would be a liar just like they are. Like, that's pretty much what my translation said. And like people are like, oh no, like Trey talked about, if you love a friend, you'll rebuke a friend. And sometimes there's a time for anger, there's a time for hate. And I'm not telling you to hate somebody, I'm telling you to hate sin and hate the devil. And everybody's got hate. It's part of life, but we direct it towards the wrong thing. Like, we get mad at somebody and we hate somebody or hate something, but if we could just take all of our hate and direct it towards the sin and the ways that Satan tries to trap us and hold us back from being who we're called to be, I believe that's what we're supposed to do. I believe that when we really, and a big step in doing that is really seeing sin for what it is. Like, I'm going to just give you an example. I don't know if this will relate to you, but I'm just going to be real and give you an example. So, there's a few things there. You have the lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And me as a dude, and I'm just going to speak for you. Maybe, I don't know. And maybe a lot of other dudes in there have the struggle of lust. And I think it goes both ways, but I'm a dude, so I can think like a dude, and I look at it from a guy's perspective. So that's how I'm going to talk to you about it, not from a girl's perspective, because I don't really know what y'all think. So, there's about 3 categories when you talk about guys. There's guys that know they lust, look for lust, and are cool with it. Then there's guys that like know what they should be doing and know what's right, and they try not to do it, and there's constantly temptation, and they're constantly pushing it away, and they're constantly pushing it away. And then there's people who actually see it for what it is. And before God changed me, I was in the first category. Then when he changed me, I was in the third category. Then I slipped back to the second category because I knew what was right, and I still tried to do what was right, and I had right motives, but the way that I looked at it changed because I didn't look at it for what it was anymore. It was enticing. And when you look at something that looks good, and you're like, oh crap, it's not like, oh man, and then like, I can't do that. And it was constantly, it was a battle. It was like every day, and I was so tired, and it was so much. But when you really see it for what it is, when God really changes your heart, you can look at that person and be like, man, I feel bad for them. Because you have compassion on that person, and you're like, she don't need to be wearing that, and I wish you knew that if you dressed more modestly, it would be so much more attractive to me. Because that's not what I'm looking for, because I see it for what it is. And like, that's just an example, and I feel like every single facet of our life, everything that we struggle with is kind of like that. Like, whatever sin is, like, you have to see it for what it is. And when you really see it for what it is, you're not tempted because it doesn't look enticing, because you really realize that it's for your destruction. And you can really see how God designed it to be and how He wants it to be. And just FYI, it doesn't help when they wear stuff like that, okay? Like, you can't get mad at guys for but it don't help nobody out, you know what I'm saying? Like, modesty, being modest is the hottest, alright? And we don't unspoken struggle. Like, nobody wants to talk about it, but it needs to be talked about because it's very, very evident in our culture, in our society, and the way that we live. But if we really love God, we have to hate sin. So much so that we would nail it to the cross. So, nailing it to the cross doesn't just mean killing it. It means humiliating it. Like, you have to hate something. Like, think about really nailing something to the cross. Like, if you, like the people that nailed Jesus to the cross, I don't think they liked him too much. You know what I'm saying? Yeah? So, like, when we really see sin for what it is, if we really hate sin, we'll nail it to a cross because it's like, it was the worst punishment. It was the worst way to die. Not only brutally, physically, but humiliation. Because everyone that looked up at you knew that you were like a criminal and the worst of the worst, and that, like, this was your punishment. Like, they were spitting on Jesus. Like, to nail something to the cross means you have to hate it. And it says to leave it there. It says, nail the passions and desires of the sinful nature to the cross and crucify them there. So we have to crucify them. It doesn't mean nail them up there and go, oh, I'm sorry, let me take the nails out of your hand and pull you back down and keep going. It means to leave it there, to crucify it, to kill it. Because our God is a God that saves and a God that delivers and a God that redeems. And whether you haven't been saved and you're seeking a relationship with God, know that He can save you and redeem you. Know that He can take you from category 1 to category 3. And do y'all know what I mean when I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just making sure. And God is a delivering God, but if you're a person that is saved, that belongs to Jesus, that is still living like you're in captivity like the Israelites, you can't move forward and do what God has called you to do unless you crucify those sinful passions and desires and leave them there. And that's when you can really pick up who God is. And I talked to Trey. Trey is a really good friend. He's a pretty wise guy, if y'all don't know. But he said he went to this camp, and he said one night the guy was preaching about temptation, and he said one of the things is recognizing temptation for what it is. And then the other thing one of the other things he said was not to focus on your temptation. Like, when you spend all your time and attention on your temptation, you never have time to look at God. And when you're stuck in category 2 and you're constantly pushing away temptation, then you can't grow in your relationship with God like you're supposed to because you're so wrapped up in sin and you're so wrapped up in trying not to sin and trying to do right. And that's not how God's called us to live, and that's not what God has called us to do. So when we take our attention away from our sin and when we look to God, because when we look to God, we are taking our attention away from sin. It happens at the same time. When we do one, the other happens because God is over here and sin is over here. God cannot sin. God cannot have a part in sin. And so they are on two totally different sides of the spectrum. So when you turn to God, you are turning away from your sin. When you focus on God, you're not focusing on your sin. And that's how He's called us to live. He's called us into a relationship with Him, to be able to grow closer to Him and to be able to love Him and serve Him like He's called us to, and not be so focused on messing up in our sin and our temptation that we can't live like that. And that's what I want to leave you guys with today is do you really hate sin? Do you really hate it? Like, would you crucify it and nail it to the cross?